In recent weeks, it seems more big podcasters are chasing dollars and harder. Where is the money in podcasting?
And now, a look at what's trending in the podcast world and how it can help your show. It's the Jag Show Podcast.
3 big podcasts caught my attention by chasing those dollars recently. First, The Daily from the New York Times announced they would put their archives behind a paywall. Now, fortunately, The Daily shows will still be free when they release, but if you want to research and do a deep dive on a topic, you might need to pony up. Next, Pod Save America, in the midst of a presidential election, is debuting additional content. Extra shows, also behind a paywall. And they played a clip of a new show in their main free podcast. Finally, on the other side, Tucker Carlson's podcast has a massive load of spots at the beginning of his show. Now, I've got issues with all 3 of these strategies. If I've got a bunch of episodes of The Daily I want to binge on, say, a long flight, if you charge me for them, I'm probably going to go do something else, like play Sudoku. For Pod Save America, if you're going to charge for content, it better be good. And the clip I heard of the new premium show, it was not. And Tucker, overinflating commercial breaks is one of the many factors that led to the downfall of commercial radio. People will sit through ads during free content, but we all have our saturation points. In fact, it's been a horrible week for commercial radio. More layoffs at iHeartMedia, including many folks have been on the air for decades. And the second biggest owner in the country, Odyssey, well, their stock price dropped to a whopping 10 cents per share. What's it up to today? Check my Robinhood app. Big rebound. So you may be wondering, if you're not pulling huge download numbers to sell to national advertisers, how can you make money off your podcasts? Well, you may not need BetterHelp, ZipRecruiter, or that sickly sweet Magic Spoon cereal. There are a number of ways to monetize your show, and it will be different for everyone. I just hosted an episode of the Podcast Superfriends where myself and 3 colleagues presented several ideas. I'll link to that episode in our show notes, but here's the quick version. You can sell ads, but sell in your niche. If you have 50 listeners, I bet there's going to be a company that would want to be in front of 50 people that care enough about your content to sit through an entire podcast. There are also subscription models. If you find your show has super fans, consider putting some content behind a paywall. But be sure to keep some of your content free so you can stay top of mind for everyone, not just your biggest fans. If your show has a significant YouTube following, you might consider ads there instead of dynamically inserted or baked in ads on the audio side. One warning though, do not put a version of your show with dynamically inserted ads on YouTube. If there are obvious ads that YouTube isn't getting a cut of, they'll be quick to boot you off their platform. You may also want to consider a subscription model. Now, asking folks for $5 a month on top of their Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus bills could be a challenge. But if you have fans that believe in your show, the PBS model of support might be an option. You don't even have to send them a tote bag. Bottom line, there are many ways to monetize your podcast. Just don't do it in a way that creates friction for your listeners. There are too many other entertainment options out there. Again, for a deeper dive, you can check out this month's edition of the Podcast Superfriends on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. And for any questions about podcasts, you can hit me up. I'll be in Washington, D.C. next week for the annual Podcast Movement Convention, and I'll be back with what I learned. Later.
The most popular ways to grow a podcast are recommendations of friends and family. So share this episode with someone you know. And for any questions you have about podcasts, find Jag online at jagindetroit.com.